Today I effed up by not correcting my neighbor when he thought I was a doctor. So this all started a few months ago when I met my new neighbor. Nice guy, mid-50s, retired car salesman, very chatty. We're making small talk one day and he asks what I do for a living. For reference, I actually do work at a hospital, but I'm not a doctor. Over the years I've learned to stay vague about my job because the second you say, I work in healthcare, people either start telling you about every rash they've ever had or get weirdly defensive about their eating habits. So I just said, oh, I work down at the hospital, in the medical field. Harmless, right? Apparently not. For context, I live in a house that looks nice from the street. It's big, kind of stately even, but that's only because I inherited it from a rich grandparent. I am not rich. The driveway is cracked, half my gutters are held up by a wing and a prayer, and the lawn is constantly in some stage of almost mowed. But to someone driving by, I can see how it might scream doctor money. Fast forward a few weeks, my neighbor and I are talking about cars. He used to sell them, so I ask what he thinks about a certain model. He laughs and says, well, look, just because you can afford it on a doctor's salary doesn't mean you should go buying something flashy. I laughed and was getting ready to tell him, but midway through our conversation he got a call. Like I said, he's chatty in that he monologues a lot and it's hard to get a word in edgewise. I told my wife later that I think the neighbor thinks I'm a doctor and I didn't get a chance to correct him, and we both got a chuckle out of it. We thought it was funny and decided to just let it ride. Inside joke. No harm, no foul. Also, I know he talks to a lot of the other neighbors a lot who know I'm not a doctor, and I figured he would just eventually hear through the grapevine that I'm not, so no biggie. A little while later, he calls me one evening, says another neighbor fell and hit her head, and asks if she should go to the doctor. I'm thinking this is just a normal, neighbor checking kind of thing, so I say something like, I mean, yeah, she should probably get checked out, just in case it's a concussion. I didn't realize it at the time, but that apparently confirmed in his mind that Dr. Big Man Beats was making a house call by phone. From there, it escalated, slowly at first. Hey Big Man Beats, you think this looks bad? With accompanying photo, are you allowed to write me a prescription for X? What's the best over-the-counter thing for acid reflux? Every time, I dance around it like, sorry I can't help you with that, or I'm not sure, you should have your doctor take a look at that. I'd say it in the most neutral, non-committal way possible, thinking he'd eventually catch on. I probably should have just ripped the band-aid off, but I unfortunately passed that point where it would be awkward to correct him. If anything, my vague answers reinforced his belief that I was some kind of humble physician trying to avoid liability. A different neighbor later told me that my neighbor said to him, he's so busy being a doctor he doesn't have time to even fix his house or mow his lawn. My neighbor thought him thinking I'm a doctor was equally as hilarious as my wife and I did, and didn't tell him either. At this point, it's been months. As far as I know, he still thinks I'm Dr. Big Man Beats, the neighborhood doctor who lives in the big house with the bad lawn. I eventually will have to tell him before at the next HOA party, heaven forbid someone has a heart attack and he comes to me to save the day and I have to break it to him I'm just a humble healthcare worker. TL, doctor. I told my neighbor I work at the hospital and stayed vague to avoid weird questions. He assumed I'm a doctor, which I initially found funny, but because I never corrected him, it slowly escalated until he now thinks I'm his personal neighborhood doctor, and now I will end up having a super awkward conversation with him about it.